So I wanted to ask you guys, how do you describe what a trust is to people? What is the simplest way to describe it?
So I describe it as a plan for your future, for your family. It's a tool in your entire estate plan that helps your family once you've passed away to streamline the process.
And what is the process if you don't have a trust?
It's typically a probate.
And what is a probate?
A probate is a court action that administers a person's estate upon their death. And if you don't have a will or a trust, it's done through the probate code and pursuant to the probate code.
I see. So you pass away, your estate, whatever assets you own, goes to this probate process, and a court decides how it gets distributed. Yeah. And that may or may not be how you intended to have it distributed.
Yeah, so a trust is nice because you can differentiate and you can decide where your assets are going or who they're going to.
Right.
I describe it, not to interrupt, but if you don't have a plan, the state already has a plan for you.
Right.
And you might not like it.
Right. And what's the difference between having a trust and a will? Because I think most people are familiar with wills, but trusts are a little more a mystery.
A will would have to be probated.
So you're still in the legal process if you
Still
have
in the
a
legal
will.
process. You do have a plan, if you've developed that correctly, where you don't default to the probate code, but you still have to go to court,
Right.
pay an attorney,
Right.
got to pay the court fees. You're under the jurisdiction of the court, and so you have to get approval and confirmation as you go along towards implementing that plan or administering the plan, and that can get timely and expensive.
How expensive is probate?
Probate in California is done on a statutory fee. Mm-hmm. So I usually tell my clients the minimum of a statutory fee if you have a $200,000 probate is a $7,000 attorney fee.
Okay, so that's $7,000 that doesn't go to your family. So that goes to the state or whoever is administrating this.
Yeah, and it only goes up from there depending on your assets.
Right.
So we were just looking at a case example, and I do a lot of real estate stuff as well, and title issues, and $1 million home. Okay, and that's a gross amount. So you got $1 million in assets, and you might have $500,000 in debts or liens, but it's still based upon that $1 million, the gross value.
Right. So even though after the debts are paid, it may only be $100,000, they look at it as though it's $1 million.
The value of the estate, yeah. But where I was going with that is, by the time you pay the executor, okay, who may be entitled to a fee or is entitled if they choose to take it, and the statutory fees to the attorneys, the court costs, on $1 million, can run around $30,000 or more.
Wow. So it's quite expensive. Okay, so by having a trust, we avoid all of that.
A lot of it.
A lot of it, yeah.
Yeah.
It also takes less time. So there's minimum periods for creditor claims and such in California. So a probate can last anywhere from 6 months to 12 months. And a smaller trust administration where you just have a house and maybe a bank account could usually be administered a lot quicker.
How fast could a trust be administered? Like, what is a typical time that it takes?
It depends upon the nature of the assets. It can be done very quickly. You have, in your trust document, you've named a trustee, okay, to take over when you pass away, and they can immediately come in and start controlling those things. I always describe it as gathering the assets, paying the bills, and distributing out as directed.
And if there's just not a lot there, you can do it in just a couple months.
Another feature of the trust, I think Sonya probably agree, is it's private, pretty much. So you go establish a probate with the court, that file is open. Anybody can see.
Right, everybody knows what your assets are, and everybody knows who got distributed what.
And what your debts are.
Right.
Yeah. And some people say, I don't care, and that's fine too, but other people, that's very critical for them.
Right, especially if it's a large estate, you don't necessarily want people to know that you inherited a bunch of money, because then you're possibly a target. So it's good keeping it private.
Yeah, there's also the element of sometimes you're disinheriting people in your trust, or you're not including people in your trust, and so you don't want them to know what was in the trust.
Right.
So again, it remains private.
Right. Okay, so we're going to make a trust. You've made the decision to make a trust. What is the process that I would typically go through? And then I want to talk about what the difference is in the way that Trust-Terra is changing the process.
So when I work with a client, my clients are typically filling out some sort of questionnaire that's giving me all their family information and their asset information. And then we're sitting down and we're designing what type of trust they need, what else they might need in their estate plan as far as powers of attorney and healthcare directives. And then we're taking time to draft that. We're reviewing those drafts with them. And then they're coming to my office to sign it.
Okay, so they're hiring you as an attorney. They're paying your attorney time and fees to come up with all of this documentation and ask them questions and figure out what they want and figure out how it should be distributed. And then you're drawing up the documents, and then they come in and they sign the documents, and then that basically becomes the trust.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how would Trust-Terra be different?
Well, they wouldn't be visiting with an attorney, obviously. They could do it more in the privacy of their own home. They're probably similar in that they're still answering some sort of questions to put the information into the trust.
Right, because you need to go through all the people you're going to distribute things to and how much you want to give them and all those sort of things.
Yeah, I think the main difference is you're not having to worry about making an appointment with attorney's office. You're not having to go see an attorney, and you're just able to do it wherever and whenever you'd like to do it.
Right.
And the feature on that type of trust that you're talking about creating is a revocable trust. So they can make a change at any time.
Yeah.
Right, and life changes, so you have to constantly probably make changes, right? Because you have children, you sell assets, all things happen. So and so if they're going to an attritional process, they come to visit you, and you make some sort of an amendment to the trust to make those changes.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So on Trust-Terra, there'll be a feature where they can go in and make these changes within the software.
Yeah, and they have this dashboard where their documents are there, and they can go look at them and find them easily.
Right.
And then make the changes they want to make.
Great. And what's typically the fee that an attorney would charge somebody to do a trust package?
To do a whole package with powers of attorney, they range. In California, I've seen them anywhere from about $1,800 to $4,000.
Okay.
And if you have a real complicated estate, it can get higher.
Right. So Trust-Terra is about $700, more or less. So quite a bit less expensive.